Time now for our weekly gaming segment called Wanna Bet. We also want to thank our good friends at TSN Edge, Dom Padula, for providing us with some additional information. But let's get to the games right away. Moj, how'd you do last week?
4-0, 5-0, undefeated.
You know, we can go back and look at the tape to just make sure. But let's start with the Seahawks, who I picked to win and cover in this game, and that didn't work. So I am not undefeated. They are favored by 1 at Minnesota, a team that's 0-2. We just talked to Pete Bursich. They could easily be 2-0 given the way things have gone for them. What happens?
Well, if somebody wants to actually look back last week, somebody actually said take Tennessee minus 5.5 because the fact is Tennessee was embarrassed at home. You knew they were going to come out with a much better effort there. So Seattle at Minnesota, I will take Minnesota, and I'll tell you why. You're talking about an 0-2 team that is desperate to win a football game. They're at home. The only issue here is Cook, and I know he's got a bit of an ankle, so that's my biggest concern. But I just think Minnesota, they could be 2-0. They could. I mean, a couple of breaks here and there. They could be 2-0 in this young season, but I'll take the Vikings at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seahawks. And look, home field advantage doesn't mean anything. You go back to 2019 in the last 2 seasons, home field advantage is basically 500. Right? There's some teams that have a bigger advantage if you're Seattle playing at home, New Orleans playing at home. The numbers bear that out. But generally, it's a 500 situation when you're playing at home. I'm not sure that that's going to push them over the top. I think Dalvin Cook's injury, it sounds like it might be a little more serious. He's going to be right up until game time before they make a decision there. I think Seattle was very unfortunate not to win last week. I want to see Shane Waldron's ability to adjust. We'll get into more of the Seahawks a little bit in Hawk Talk, but I'm going to take the Hawks to win and cover Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Pitt favored by 4.5.
4.5, actually.
4.5. I know, I'm just reading it. I should have said 4.5.
4.5.
Poor language.
I will go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, a desperate team, a team that lost to the Raiders at home last week in week 2. And I think this is a Pittsburgh team that will rebound. Cincinnati, I mean, losing Chicago? I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, there's no question. And they've got 3 potential really good targets for Joe Burrow to be throwing the ball to. But, boy, when I look at the fantasy stuff, I don't know who to pick because it just seems like one of them has an off day, one of them's a little banged up. TJ Watt, that part concerns me, not having him available, but I think Pittsburgh still has enough to win that game at home. This is the game of the weekend for me. Tampa Bay at the Rams. Rams at home favored by 1.5, not 1.5, 1.5.
Ooh, how do you bet against Tom Brady right now?
I am.
Okay, you bet against Tom Brady. You can take the Rams. As much as I like what they're doing, I'm going to take Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on the road. I know right now if you look at these teams, defense wins. I'll take the Rams defense over the Bucs defense, but it's Tom Brady. I cannot put money. I don't think anybody out there watching right now wants to bet against Tom Brady. You just can't do it. There's a whole bunch of other games you can play. I don't care. You can play like other NFL games. You can actually play Delaware versus Rhode Island. I don't care. I'll take Delaware. You can take Rhode Island. I'm not betting against Brady. I'm not doing it.
I am taking Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, the most underrated receiver in the NFL, Cooper Kupp. That entire receiving core.
How has he not made a Pro Bowl?
That is the most underrated receiving group in the league. Stafford and McVay are making them look great. You're going to take Jalen Ramsey, put him on Mike Evans, eliminate that one weapon. I know Brady's got some others with Gronk and Godwin and Antonio Brown, but I'm not even going to say I'm taking them at home. I am just taking the Rams in a preview of the NFC Championship to win this game and cover wherever it is.
How do you like the Rams? Very quickly in that game against Indy, opening drive, first and goal at the 1. First and goal at the 1. And the Colts can't put the ball in the end zone. I love that defense. Those 2 guys up the middle just pushing the puck up.
You know, if you watch that team play, watch Aaron Donald closely. And I guarantee the amount of stats he generates isn't close to the impact he's having in that game. You know, his ability to draw double and triple teams to protect the linebackers in the twist game, he impacts games so much. And you're not even going to see the stats. You just know how good this guy is.
There was a game in Seattle a couple of years ago where we were there watching the Rams play the Seahawks, and Donald was actually on the edge. So they chipped him with the tight end. So the tackle was lined up. Tight end chipped him. As he came around the corner, the running back was waiting for him. I mean, they had basically 3 guys assigned to do something with Aaron Donald in that situation.
Yeah,
he draws a lot of attention.
Green Bay at San Francisco. We'll find out if, in fact, the Pack is back. San Francisco 3-point favorites. This is, of course, a team that Aaron Rodgers definitely wanted to play for. It's kind of his home area there, Northern California. Who do you like?
This one's really tough for me. I don't think San Francisco looked that great winning against Philadelphia. Their defense looked good. But 2 road wins, they stayed back there. Smart move by the 49er organization, staying there for the week. I'll take San Francisco -3. I know the Packers are coming off a great win, but short week, traveling to San Francisco, pretty good San Francisco team. I will take the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to win that game. Again, it's always a big game for Aaron Rodgers when he heads out there to play. It's going to be tough for them to protect him as much as or the way they'd like to with that defensive line in San Francisco, but the game's going to stay close because Jimmy Garoppolo just can't do enough with that San Francisco offense. We talk about what Matthew Stafford is going to do for the Rams receivers. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, what he does for that receiving core, because they've got some good pieces, not good enough. They haven't got George Kittle going yet. I think, in a 24-17 type game, Green Bay is going to find a way to win.
Can you imagine if San Francisco had one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, how good that team would be?
Absolutely. And they don't have it, and they're ordinary offensively because of it, and that means you're always going to be susceptible in any game. New Orleans at New England. Patriots favored by 3. Jameis Winston against Bill Belichick.
Just when I was starting to buy all this Jameis Winston stock after week 1, and Jameis Winston talking about the best decision he made in week 1 was throwing a ball away rather than being baited into an interception. And then he comes out and 11 of 22, 111 yards, 2 interceptions.
This is why you shouldn't talk about quarterbacks.
Jameis Winston yet again. So Bill Belichick right now, I'll take the Patriots -3 at home versus Winston and company.
We're going to agree. I think might be the only one in this segment we're going to agree on, but I think the Patriots are going to win at home. And their defense is playing lights out right now. I mean, when you look at how they're playing defensively last week, or these first 2 weeks versus last year, it just goes to show you how much they were affected by the number of opt-outs they had, right? The number of players that didn't play for the Patriots last year, he's got all the pieces in the places that he wants. They looked dominant last week, and I think they're going to continue to do that. The Patriots to win and cover easily.
4 sacks last week of Zach Wilson and 4 takeaways.
Yeah.
That's pretty lethal.
And he's a mobile quarterback. He has that escapability, and he was nowhere near being able to escape.
Do you know the concern there, like the stats according to NFL.com, was that Zach Wilson has 4 interceptions when he was not under pressure. That concerns me.
Wow.
I mean, because, a lot of times under pressure, quarterback makes a bad decision. He has to do something really quickly. He's got some, a pass rush in his face. When you throw 4 picks without any pressure,
Wilson might be a quarterback early in his career that is better off platform than he is on platform. Early. I mean, eventually that's not a sustainable way to play, but I think right now he might be more comfortable on the edges as opposed to sitting back and reading some more exotic NFL coverages than what he dealt with in college. Survivor pool, I was 2-0 last week. You were 2-0 last week. What do you got?
Well, you keep picking the Rams every week. Here's a newsflash for you, Mr. Vegas.
They're good.
You do not pick the same team twice.
Didn't he tell me didn't he deduct that from my total? Because you made me pick 3 last week.
Well, you had Tennessee in week 1, so you were done there. So anyway, listen to me because I've actually run the table 4-0 through 2 weeks with Survivor. I'll start off because people want to listen to these picks. What do we have here? Oh, we're going to take Buffalo over Washington. I think the Bills are rolling. I mean, you look at Josh Allen. He didn't even have to do anything in week 2. I'll take Buffalo over Washington. And the other one, a team that's looking really good right now is the Broncos.
Yeah, they are.
Take the Broncos over the Jets. Why not? We were just talking about Wilson's numbers. So I'll take the Broncos.
I'm going to go Ravens over the Lions. I think that defense still has a long way to go before they're remotely competitive as far as a playoff spot is concerned. I think the Ravens are looking great. And Panthers over the Texans. Again, like what Sam Darnold's doing, I think that Texans team is still not very good, given the quarterback situation. David Carr's going to, not David Carr. Why am I losing my mind here? David Mills from Stanford. He's going to wind up being the quarterback in that game. So I'm going to take the rookie quarterback to struggle a little bit for the Panthers to get to 3-0.
What do you think happens with Deshaun Watson?
Well, he's not going to be active next week,
No.
Even though they don't have their starting quarterback. I'm just stunned at what Houston is still asking for him. You would have thought the asking price would have gone significantly down, but it hasn't yet. So I think they're all just going to wait to see how the legal situation plays out. He's an asset. At some point, when all of that plays out, if it works out in his favor, it's the NFL. Teams are going to take him.
I mean, we've seen this league so many times take players with, how would we put it, checkered backgrounds.
Yeah.
And if you can win a football game on Sunday, help them win a football game on Sunday. guess what? They'll be on the roster. The one concern that I have, though, I mean, I just look at that situation. If they have to get, their mindset has to be this. Anything they get for Deshaun Watson in a trade has to be conditional, because that's the only way you're going to get a deal done. Conditional draft picks based on how many games Watson plays, right? Nobody wants to take Deshaun Watson on, give up X amount of players and draft picks, and then find out he's suspended or he can't play for X amount of games.
Well, when you look at the court situation, too, it could be 2 years that get impacted for Watson right now. Real quick, fantasy start and sit. Your starts.
All right, starting Justin Fields in Chicago. If you got him, let him roll. Why not? He's been drafted. People have him. They were waiting for this time. 6 of 13, 60 yards, I know. Not great numbers, but guess what? He's a guy who has such a high ceiling. You got to give him a whirl. And the other guy that I really like, and he's only owned like in 50% of the leagues right now, Sterling Shepard of the Giants. And he is having a great season. Through 2 games, 16 catches, 207 yards, and a touchdown. And guess what? The Giants play the Atlanta Falcons this week. Merry Christmas. Take Sterling Shepard.
Hey, for me, I'm going to go DeAndre Swift, running back against the Ravens. Nursing a groin last week, they held him back a little bit in terms of splitting carries, so his numbers were down. Had 104 yards week 1. He should be healthier. Very capable dual threat guy. That Ravens D, they are awful against the run. 5.9 yards per carry. And, maybe there's a bit of a letdown there. I still think the Ravens win the football game, but in terms of fantasy, Detroit and DeAndre Swift, I think, is a good pickup. DK Metcalf against the Vikings. So, really disappointing game for Metcalf this past week against the Titans. He rarely struggles in back-to-back games. This week, I think he's going to break out. There's going to be so much focus on Tyler Lockett with the 2 games that he's had. Vikings D's looked ordinary. They're ranked 26th against the pass. They're averaging 10.5 yards allowed per attempt, which is 31st, so I'm going DK Metcalf in this game.
You take DK Metcalf.
Who are you sitting?
I'm sitting Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers. And I say that because Deebo Samuel's in the middle of a breakout campaign. A lot of people looked at Brandon Ayuk and they said, hey, maybe this is a guy who will be able to be your 3 WR. But right now, the way Samuel's playing, this guy's kind of like, I don't know. I don't even know if he's still on the roster the way it seems things are going for him in San Francisco. So I will sit him. I would probably even wind up dropping him, never mind sitting him.
Well, for me, 2 guys I would sit. Mike Evans facing Jalen Ramsey. Enough said. There's a chance Ramsey might see Godwin. I don't think so. I think he's going to wind up lining up against Ramsey heavily. As good as Tom Brady has looked so far, I think this might be the week he slows down a little bit for a week in my NFC Championship game preview. Ben Roethlisberger, meanwhile, struggled through 2 games. Really similar to what we saw a year ago. It's kind of what we expected. He's facing a Bengals D that's actually been pretty good against the pass this year. They're currently in the top 10, allowing under 210 passing yards per game. Sit Big Ben.